W.
Come July 29th, it's the inner city versus outer space when Attack the Block hits the theaters. Please welcome to BJ Shea's Geek Nation, John Boyega and Joe Cornish.
Hey, thanks for having us.
No problem. This movie was fantastic.
Thank you.
We didn't know a whole lot coming into it. We went into it blind, so really wasn't sure what we were going to expect. But the fact that you guys melded comedy and horror so well, I mean, it was. I just love the movie. But everyone else did too.
I'll tell you this, and I'm going to say this right now. You have to see this movie. There's always one movie that comes out during a blockbuster season, the summer or winter season. There's always one movie that people don't know about. Instead, they go to all the ones that get publicized, and they go, this is the movie of the year. And people go, and she's, oh, God, why did I waste my money on that?
Yeah.
And so, we went to see Attack the Block, and like you said, Rev, had no idea what the movie was about. I hadn't even seen a trailer. It's just, here's how it happened. Because we've got a good relationship with Edgar Wright, and I saw Edgar tweet about Scott Pilgrim being shown all over America at film festivals in the summer, and I'm like, hey, let it know when it comes to Seattle, I love the film. And he goes, hey, can you also, if you get a chance, talk up the movie that I produced called Attack the Block? And I said, Edgar, I don't know what the movie's about. What's going on? He goes, oh, it's a great movie. If you get a chance, give it some pub. I immediately went to our guys and said, hey, can we see a screening of it? So I go in not knowing anything, and I'm an old guy that's been watching. I watched Star Trek when it was on TV for reals, no reruns. I've seen a lot of sci-fi and horror and action and all that. So to walk into a movie and go, wow, I really don't know where this movie's going to go, which is tremendous. And I have to say, John, the Moses character, man, I throughout that whole movie, I had so many different things that I wanted to say, do to your character if I had the opportunity.
Wow.
And
I don't think that way.
No, there wasn't a lot of love, but I will accept as the movie went on. And boy, what a rich character out of a stereotype. And so that's what I want to talk to you guys about. Out of everything with Attack the Block. Again, if you're listening, Attack the Block. You know what? If you want your money back, if you see that movie and don't like it, fine. Rev will give you your money back.
But sure, yeah, that's the ticket.
See this movie, and I hardly don't even want to talk about it because it's so great to go in and not have a clue. But you know how life is; everybody wants to know something. But Joe, I got to know, where did you come up with the idea to put this movie the way it was? Because it's brilliant the way it was done.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'm a big fan of American '80s creature features. I'm kind of the same age as that kid in E.T. was, so that movie hit me really hard. I love Gremlins, I love Critters, I love Predator, I love Ghostbusters. I like old school movies that have fantastic things happening in kind of real environments. And I'd never seen that kind of story told in an area where John and I live, which is South London, which is a beautiful area, but it can be quite rough and tough on occasion. And I thought it would be a cool combination to set a fantasy adventure movie in this gritty urban environment.
And you guys call it the Block. I guess we would call it the Hood here in America. It's basically the aliens in the hood is what's going on.
Kind of thing, yeah. I mean, I think in the UK it's a lot more mixed. You get a lot of different types of people live in very close quarters. And that's sort of what the movie's about. It's about all these different types of people in a neighborhood who live close to each other but don't necessarily know each other. And this event happens and they have to work together to fight it. And lots of differences. And, it's a kind of little analysis of society as well as being a crazy monster mashup chase movie.
Now, you wrote this movie. How does it feel to have your baby, your project, out on the big screen? As somebody I love comic books and one day would like to write a comic book, how does it feel to finally have it completed and out there for people to watch?
It feels amazing. This is it really does. This is and it does feel like a child, or you feel so close to it. And this movie has a cast of 11. Pretty much first-time actors in it. They were between the ages of 10 and 17 when we shot the movie. I'm a first-time director. The composer, we have a score by Basement Jaxx. They're first-time movie composers. The director of photography is a first-timer.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of fresh talent, a lot of new faces. And I feel just proud and excited and amazed that it's getting a good response over here.
One of the coolest things I loved about it were the creatures themselves. I don't know, were they CG or was it computer generated, or were they just? How did the actors have to deal with those?
Well, our creatures are a kind of hark back to old school movies, those movies I mentioned earlier. So I wanted to do it. I have this thing that monsters in contemporary movies are very samey. Like a dragon from Harry Potter could wander into Cloverfield and you wouldn't know the difference. Whereas in the 80s, if a gremlin turned up in E.T., you'd kind of know it. There was a sense of design and authorship and flavor and style that's been lost a little bit. Plus in the old days, the creatures were there. They were practical. When they interacted with humans, it was real. So we wanted to do that again. So our creatures are mostly practical, and we use CG technology to actually remove detail rather than add it.
Nice.
And when you see the movie, you'll understand that. But I hope these are creatures unlike you've ever seen in any movie before.
And I have to say, man, and John Boyega also, who plays the lead character Moses in this, you had to deal with those creatures a lot. And Joe, I know you've done some work with Stephen Moffat. He and the Doctor Who crew have to be really jealous because they consider themselves the creature guys. They make the scariest creatures ever. And I took a look at those and I said, boy, Stephen Moffat's probably yelling at his staff going, why didn't we come up with these guys?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of scary creatures, I don't do well in these kinds of movies, and I was squealing like a little girl. And actually, on my way out of the theater, I had my windows down, and I heard somebody's brake squeal, and it sounded just like one of the aliens.
Wow.
And I almost had a panic attack. But what I'm curious about, like when you watched the movie, more for John, like was there, or even was filming it, did you have a moment where you kind of like squealed, like, oh my God, had that reaction?
I think Joe put a lot of surprises in that one. There's some certain bits we didn't know that it was going to make us jump, and we jumped. We were like, oh, we're in it. Oh.
That's great. I love it when the actors are really terrified of what they have to do the scene. I love that.
Yeah. You know, the coolest thing was you guys watching the movie for the first time.
Yeah.
Because you were like giggling at first because you were thrilled to see yourselves on screen.
On screen.
but then you went silent, and then you just turned into like an audience.
And John, what was your favorite part about, or the favorite scene that you had, either filming it or even seeing yourself on the screen?
I mean, I had fun doing a lot of scenes, but I have to say, I had fun doing the hero run. That was really...
Yeah.
There was a lot of training leading up to that moment.
Can you explain what that is, John, without giving the story away?
It's when Moses does something very, very heroic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, John, great job, because for the most part in the movie, John looks like, you know what, you don't ever want to mess with him. He's afraid of nothing. And then during, like you said, the hero run, boy, did you get to see... This is a little kid. It was the first time where you go, because you're tall in the movie, you just seem like you could be like a 22-year-old guy, and to find out that really these are all just kids in the neighborhood. But boy, did you show that as you were about to go do what needed to be done. Really, I thought, wow, he's a little kid. Who would do this? You know, it's not like Anakin where, I'll just hop in and I know I'll get the aliens. You know, it's something completely unrealistic. This is where, you know what, this could not end well for the poor son of a gun. I really got that where you thought, whoa, you know what, could really suck for me, but it's got to be done. And I'm just a little kid. Why am I here? What a great portrayal to be able to bring that out because the character had so many levels, which this is what I want to talk about. There's so many parts of this movie that are different than your typical comedy, typical horror movie, typical sci-fi movie, typical gangs problems, a West Side Story type movie. I love the unique first contact response, and I'm old enough to remember when Zefram Cochrane was getting the Vulcans drunk and Klaatu's boss got shot holding the cure for cancer. You know, so many different ways humans have reacted to aliens, but the way that the kids on the block decide, here's how we're going to have our first contact moment, I don't think I've ever seen that in the movie, and I was sitting there going, you know, would we be that way as humans? You know, as over the years, as we watch sci-fi all the way from Forbidden Planet and movies like that, and how humans have reacted, War of the Worlds, the older one, and how would we be? And Joe, you really took a look at it and said, this might happen if aliens come down to Earth, the way that the humans interact with these creatures when they see them for the first time.
Yeah, you know, our alien wishes that it landed in Elliot's backyard.
Yeah. No Reese's Pieces for that guy.
No. Yeah, that was what excited me about the idea. I like, and you know, you really put your finger on it completely when you talked about it starting with a stereotype, and it very deliberately does that. These kids, when you first see them, are masked, they're anonymous, you don't know how old they are, you don't have any sense of their characters and identity, and for many people, especially in the UK, that's how they regard kids like that. They define them by one mistake or one action. And, you know, this movie is, heightened, and it's kind of a sci-fi movie, but at the same time, it's talking about how it's important to see the whole picture when you look at kids especially.
And especially with the kids, it looks like it's the kids, and you see it in the movie that they have families, but they're not really there. They're either inattentive or they're just not there at all in some cases. And it shows that they're able to have a family in however way they can make it themselves.
And we've heard that term a lot in other British shows. I mean, those are like chav families. The term chav, where it's just the working class kids and people that come from parents that are inattentive, which we don't have that kind of a term so much here in America, but it does seem that it does have a chav feel to this entire neighborhood.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, that's an interesting word in the UK. No one's quite sure what it means. I'm kind of not sure what it means. And certainly this movie is an attempt to move away from easy definitions, basically. But to be honest, I don't think I've ever met a group of people who got this film like you guys have. I almost feel I don't have to say anything, because you really got it, and you understand it, you understand the subtext, and that's very rewarding.
Well, glad it's a great movie. We love to. I mean, it was one of those, and it's. I'm a huge fan of Edgar Wright. I will follow him to. He starts an army. I'm going to follow it. And
it's kind of a stalker thing. That's why Edgar doesn't come around much anymore.
But again, with you, it's the same vein. It's the exact same thing with that. I will completely. It's like the next movie you make. I will buy this DVD instantly as soon as it comes out, because I love it. One of the questions I.
Hey, by the way, just quickly, we're talking to Joe Cornish and John Boyega. John, of course, wrote and directed this movie.
Joe did.
Joe did, yes. And John Boyega.
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish.
John, I'll tell you right now, John, at some point, I mean, you got so much talent. I mean, you really stole this movie. There was so much going on with with the creatures and all the characters, and you really did make us go, okay, we got a feel for this guy who you want to hate. And right at the beginning of the movie, you want to hate him. There are even characters that allow you to hate him. So, John, great job on that. And the movie is Attack the Block. Again, Joe Cornish, the writer-director, John Boyega, who stars as Moses. And check this movie out. It is out July 29th. There's going to be a lot of other movies that you're going to go, whoa, everybody wants us to see that. But you don't see Attack the Block. It's your own fault, because it's a great flick. Really a great, well-done flick.
The BJ Shea Morning Experience on 99.9 KISW.